Okay, so I'm just catching up on the news that the Cowley brothers are in talks with Sheffield Wednesday. It seems like a very, very shrewd move from Sheffield Wednesday to be showing interest in the Cowleys, compared to some of their recent managerial appointments, which have been, quite unimaginative. I think Wednesday are in a position where they do have to think outside the box and take a chance on somebody who's untested and unproven, because I think in terms of managers with track records at the highest level or even at championship level, I think that they are shopping in they're not competing at the top of the market and going to be getting the best managers. The fact that Chris Hughton, to use one example, is a manager that is, that was never happening. Him going to Sheffield Wednesday is quite revealing in itself. So, their intentions are impressive there, in that they're taking this very seriously, and they've identified Danny Cowley as the potential new manager. From Danny Cowley's perspective, I think that it is far from a foregone conclusion that he's going to take this job. I think Danny Cowley is well within his rights to speak to any club that shows an interest in him. I know that previously he had talks with Ipswich. And I'm not entirely sure how that went exactly, whether it was Cowley turned Ipswich down, or the talks themselves just fizzled out and never really amounted to anything. But then also there's been talks that he's turned down the opportunity to become Huddersfield manager this week as well. This is all happening very quickly at the moment. In terms of where to put Cowley as a manager, I'm very, very impressed in the past 12 months particularly. There's been a big song and dance around the Cowley brothers ever since the FA Cup run, in the season that they won the National League title. They beat a string of higher division opponents to line up that trip to the Emirates, a quarter-final against Arsenal. And during that run, it became evident that they were very impressive in the way, in the process, in the way they go about their business, the way they talked. There was loads of national newspaper interviews, and things building up to those FA Cup games that really they shot to prominence, really put them in the spotlight, in a very mainstream sort of way. So a lot of people have been championing the Cowleys for a good number of years now, and I'm sure a lot of people will be turning around and referring back to things that they said 3-4 years ago. I wasn't initially convinced straight away, not unconvinced by any stretch of the imagination, but you see a lot of managers come and go. You do see a lot of managers burst onto the scene, breath of fresh air in the way that they go about business, and they're just good versions of themselves, of their own personality types, what they bring to the party. Everybody brings something different to the party, and when you see somebody at their best and bringing their own unique qualities, laying them out in the media, or and having results, then it's only natural that people are going to be impressed by them, and people who share similar traits in their own personality really admire what they see from from a manager. So I think I was always sceptical until further evidence was in terms of just how good they were. But I've been very, very impressed in the past 12 months, mainly because they started out being portrayed as long ball merchants, very direct in the way that they, the style of football that they played. Last season was a complete change of philosophy. Really, they became more of a more patient side. They weren't, instead of launching the ball forward quickly and playing to big target men like Matt Reed, they changed it up, but still retained the ability to go back when needs must, to playing that more direct style to get results. But yeah, they were a lot more expansive last season, and then you look at the transfer business in the summer, and it looks like they are evolving once again, and signing players like Jack Payne and George Grant and Tyler Walker. we're talking about young, technically gifted, very dynamic sort of players. And I think this is a shift in it again in their development as a team, as a club. So that's all very impressive, because to continually get to evolve your style, and show three different ways of going about your business now, and always getting results doing that. I think is very impressive, and I think I'm more impressed with Danny Cowley now than I ever could have been 2 years ago. And I think it's important to understand just what a big deal he is in Lincoln, not just to the football club but to the city as a whole. I think he's, what he's done there. I believe he's moved his family up, and at the beginning they were commuting and stuff like that, and now the whole family have moved up. Big part of the community, really understands the community, always, talks as a manager that really understands the people of the area, and is very, very integrated in that part of the world, which is a part of the world which is cut off from a lot of the rest of the UK in terms of it's not doesn't get much attention from outside its own area. So there's that to consider in why you might not just suddenly jump ship, because he's leaving a lot behind, and a big reason for that is that his personality type. I make him an ESTJ. I don't know Nicky Cowley's personality type, but I make Danny an ESTJ, which is a lead function of extroverted thinking. And extroverted thinking is very, very fixated on resources, fixated on, EJs in general want to manage and control everything. They want to have a handle on everything. They don't want to feel like they're at the mercy of other people. I think if Danny Cowley goes to a new club, he'll want the same level of autonomy to do his job that he has at Lincoln. I think that's something he values a lot. I think he'll want the resources that he's got at Lincoln that ensure that he will be competitive. I'm not entirely convinced that he'll get that Sheffield Wednesday. I think their hands are tied with FFP. I think straight away they're starting from a position that is, they're going to have to make up for it in other ways, and allow the Cowleys to be creative in terms of recruitment. But I also think there's a big potential here that Cowley is just scouting. He's wanting to talk to all these clubs because he wants to know exactly what his worth is. He wants to know how much he should be getting paid, what his value is as a manager, what are these different clubs willing to offer him. Because if he gets there with Lincoln into the Championship in the next year or two, he'll want to know his own value. He'll want to know, he'll want to know what budgets are like at other clubs. He's fixated with resources. You listen to him in any post-match interview, he always talks in terms of metrics and variables, and just pulls numbers out off the top of his head that are like, startling sort of numbers sometimes that you think might take someone a while to study. To understand the significance of that number, and this is what drives him. These are the things. He's very measured in everything he does and uses metrics for everything. So I think talking to these clubs is a big thing for Cowley to just understand and get an understanding of what the Championship looks like behind the scenes, what the managers get paid, what budgets do they work with. If he's going to be planning for the next few years with Lincoln, then this can be a real good fact-finding mission for him. So I think it's far from a foregone conclusion. I think Sheffield Wednesday are entirely right to be. I think it's a shrewd direction to be looking to go towards. But I think it's anything but a formality that Cowley will actually become the manager. But if he does, then all power to Sheffield Wednesday. I think they've got the real deal. I think they've got a manager that is going to be destined for the Premier League. And I've heard him mentioned as a potential England manager of the future. I think the skills he brings to the table, I think there's every possibility.